Dear viewers, welcome to part 3 of our episode with Sheikh Dr. Imran Khan.
I mean, just right now, as an example, mathematically speaking, there are 10 million more women than men in Europe.
Yes.
What do we do with all these sisters? What happens to them? If every one man marries one woman, do those sisters become public property?
Yeah.
I would like for you to marry her so she can respectfully come into our house and we can look after her together and live as a family.
MashaAllah,
And I was like, subhanallah, I was like, wow.
One of the things that cropped in mind, and maybe the question you can answer, is that men have been polygamous, Muslim men have been polygamous for centuries, right? Is there a spiritual aspect to, the idea of polygamy? I mean, does a man become closer to God because he has more women as wives, obviously not as girlfriends or mistresses, but as wives? Is there some correlation there? And does it also sort of tie in again with the studies you've done about men's inherent nature and how have women actually embraced that over time?
The first part that I'll address is this whole part of how have women embraced this. In this part of the world, a lot of women really embrace it.
Okay.
Recently, I was watching interviews where they were asking sisters. I think there were some Tunisian sisters, some Syrian sisters, there were some sisters in, it was primarily Middle Eastern, and they were being asked this very simple question: would you be okay with your husband having a second wife? And their answer was so beautiful, so simple in and of itself. It kind of astounded me a little bit. Yes, of course, it's the law of Allah. It is as simple as that. Allah subhanahu
so they said yes.
Yeah.
Tell them where these women are.
But honestly, they said, it was a simple case of, because it's Allah's law, and as long as He does equality between us all, So this is not something that's foreign to the ladies here. What we're seeing is parts of the world that's become westernized. That's where it's becoming an issue, And where does it come from? Oh, this concept of Hollywood love. Me and him are together forever, and soulmates, and you know where the soulmate thing comes from? Do you know where this comes from? It actually comes from Hinduism. Because of Hinduism. Okay. So they have this concept of being in love for 7 generations. Janam janam kya pyar. They have this thing, don't they? There's a karmic kind of reincarnation. And then we are reincarnated and we find each other in our lifetime again, and then we're in love again. This is where this comes from.
Right.
This concept. And they take a lot from these kind of concepts. And then this has been pushed out into a different format. The whole Hollywood love scene and Romeo and Juliet and Layla Majnun and all of these things. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what are we creating here? We're creating a very, very unrealistic expectation for both men and women. Very much so. So you have to dial it back. When we're talking about your question was the first part of the question was
how women have embraced it,
and
spiritually, is there a spiritual aspect to it that is correlated to the biological aspect?
So women in the West haven't embraced it. It's as simple as that. But we're seeing more and more that women have been lied to, and the issue is the timeline. Right? This generation is a recent generation. So let's go back to my mum's generation. That generation, they didn't like it. They didn't want to accept it, but it happened a lot. And they lived it. They were okay, right? It is what it is, okay? And they focused on the family, not on themselves. They continued focusing on the family, on the kids, on the husband, to make sure and they lived happy lives. Great, carried on. Nuclear family happened. It was brilliant.
Right.
Then now we see this whole generation of women now. And now we're seeing the back end of this generation, the 40s and 50s. Women that are my age or slightly older, where they're like, oh, we've been taught being independent and career lives and how to be providing for ourselves and, whole dignity and, we're high status women and we're 10 out of 10. We've been taught all of this, and we have just been given this narrative and this crock of poo for so long, this BS for so long, and it's been pushed down our throats. Now we've got to this age, nobody wants us. We've missed the train. Or the people that are left are not the ones that we would have idealized. 10 years ago, I had a much better offer. I said no because it wasn't me. I wanted a 6-figure guy. He had to be 6 foot tall, which is only 2% of the population, by the way. He couldn't have, he had to have 6-pack abs and, all of these things. But now, I'm like 30 and 40, and we see this so much. I was speaking to, is it Abu Bakr that runs the Sunnah Match app, or one of the brothers and we were talking about it, and it was insane, like the amount of sisters that are on there that are like post 30, and the first thing they write in their profile, this is my career. I've done my master's in this, I've done my BSc in this. And I'm like, bro, men looking at this profile, are not interested in your qualifications.
Yes.
You know, well, I'm not looking at your thing and saying, okay,
A woman would be interested in a man's qualifications.
yes,
Right? Yeah.
but the other way around, we're not
Yeah, we're not-
interested.
yeah, exactly.
You know, so they've been taught.
Even how much money you have and this
Yeah.
thing. You know,
So they've been taught this, and they've become very resentful now, very spiteful. Women, inherently, they will chop their nose off to spite their face.
because it surprises me for you when I hear that you said they, you know, when you had this statistic and they actually accepted it. But yeah, it's surprising to see that there are in certain segments of society,
Overwhelmingly here.
Yeah.
In this part of the world, overwhelmingly they accept.
Yeah.
The West, not so much, but that's changing as well.
You're talking about Western Muslims in the Western world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's changing now. That trend is changing. You know, that trend is massively changing.
You know, funnily, I have also had some discussions with some non-Muslim ladies, right? And because, you know, they obviously know me as having written a book on polygamy, and then some questions come in and they come and ask me certain questions and about this, why can't we do it, and et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that a lot of them have sort of, to their credit, okay, is that when I've explained it to them, because I make it a big point to say, look, polygamy is not infidelity. If you understand that, okay, yes, you may feel certain unhappiness, you may feel jealous, but, you know, obviously a lot has to do with the man, okay? I mean, a man can screw it up he can screw it up, or
You've got to be a certain type of man,
Yeah, it has to be a certain type of man, right? But as long as you've got a man who's responsible, I mean, he's not going to be perfect, he's responsible, he knows the value of family. You know, don't look at it in a way that is so negative, because I remember one sister put it beautifully. She said, you know, why would first wives, for example, want to threaten divorce their husband because he took a second wife, and then go out there and look for Mr. Right when Mr. Right was always there, you know? So it's fascinating to see that, you know, there are this type of trend, right? I mean, talk about Punjab and the men, right? But I think a lot of women also very strong-minded, and I've seen that they're like, you know, they're also very they're
very strong-minded.
Strong-minded, right?
Yeah,
So,
but they can deal with it. And then, you know, being jealous is normal.
Yeah.
For some reason, women are allowed to act on their emotions and men aren't. If I get angry and acted on my anger, it could be very dangerous.
Yeah.
So I restrict myself.
Yeah.
If I get jealous and act on my jealousy, my ghira, it could become very dangerous. So I limit myself.
Yes.
This should be the same advice for women. If they're getting jealous, okay, jealousy is a natural emotion. You become jealous. Don't dwell on it. See what are the solutions to overcome this?
Right.
Okay, what kind of things can you do to positively find an outcome instead of just letting that emotion do what it wants? Don't let the emotion rule you. You rule the emotion.
Yeah.
You know, and it's often as simple as just taking a piece of paper around, writing a few things down.
There's two final points I want to talk to you about before we conclude this podcast, and the one is something you told me off camera the last time we met, where you said even if a man is not intending to go into the polygamous route or lifestyle, he should be in a position financially, mentally, whatever, to be able to be in that. Why do you feel so strongly about this?
You know, and this is for Muslim men specifically.
Yeah.
We're meant to lead the world.
Yeah.
Quite literally, that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to lead the ummah as men.
Right.
Yeah. We should be nines and tens across the board. Physically, spiritually, financially, emotionally and mentally. We should be 8s, 9s and 10s. The top of the top.
Okay.
But that's what we were. You know, our ancestry is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of creation.
Illustrious.
Yeah, that's our ancestry. The companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's not even like we don't know what they did. We literally have a manual. We have the most detailed guide.
Authentic as well.
Yeah, authentic. We have the most detailed, authenticated guide. I mean, you know, you could take literally descriptions from the seerah and the Prophet sallallahu, you know, and you could literally, if someone wanted to, draw an accurate picture of him. Not saying they should, but I'm saying if they really wanted, they could do that. You know, based on the information that we have. We literally have the number of hairs in his beard. The grey hairs. So when we say detail, we are talking on a different level of detail.
Exactly.
You know, authenticated like you said. So we even have a guide and we have a manual. So there's no real excuse for Muslim men to fall behind. So we should be 8s and 9s and 10s across the board. And when I say capable, again, we don't know what's coming around the corner. I mean, just right now, as an example, mathematically speaking, there are 10 million more women than men in Europe.
Yes.
Specifically in more in Russia.
Yeah.
What do we do with all these sisters? What happens to them? If every one man marries one woman, do those sisters become public property?
Yeah.
You know, what happens? You know, one story that really intrigued me. This piqued my interest in polygyny. And it was my Arabic tutor. This was years ago, about 15 years ago. Sheikh Dhafar, amazing guy from Iraq. So he came over during the wartime, and he had a second wife. So I said, wow. I said, oh, tell me about how did this happen? Unbelievable. I'd never heard of this thing happening. So he explained to me, he goes, look, my wife, she came to me one day and she said, look, you know, so-and-so's husband's passed away. She's my friend. So-and-so's husband passed away. She has no sons and she's, you know, living on her own and she's finding it very difficult and she's my friend. I would like for you to marry her so she can respectfully come into our house and we can look after her together and live as a family.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
And I was like, subhanallah. I was like, wow. Feminists, this is sisterhood. Any feminist listening, this is the definition of ideal feminism, where you sisters look out for sisters like this, you know? So, you know.
It's quite a huge sacrifice as well.
Of course it is.
Yeah, you know? Yeah.
Subhanallah. I mean, her husband must have been a good guy anyway, and he was a top guy.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's willing to share him for the sake of her sister, subhanallah.
Yeah.
You know. So for me, it's like, this is the whole thing. Like, there's a mathematical element to polygyny, there's a scientific element to polygyny, there's a neuroscience element to polygyny, there's a societal element to polygyny, there's an anthropological side to polygyny. Every metric that you look at, every metric, barring one, a woman's emotional spectrum, every other metric that you look at tells you that this is how it should be. Yeah? But you know why we still are struggling with this? Why we still are having to have these conversations? Is because now we're living in a society where your feelings are more important than the facts. I don't care what the black and white facts say. This is how I feel. So let's go according to my feelings. You know, that's the issue that we're living in now.
So that comes to the final issue that I want to talk to you about, right? Is, okay, based on what you said, in your opinion, should men be polygamous? And if the taboo of polygyny was lifted in future generation, what will the society look like in the future?
I go back to what I said previously. I think men should have the ability to be polygynous. That's the first thing.
Okay.
I think aiming to be polygynous immediately, it's like learning to run before you can walk.
Like Abu Noor.
Yeah, like, mashallah. You know, he's a mashallah wise
mature
kid,
brother,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, mature brother. For his age, I was shocked. Very wise kid, mashallah. You know, a lot of brothers want to do this.
Yeah.
Fine, it's great intention.
Yeah.
Make yourself capable, guys. Don't just jump into it.
Yeah.
Read this book here and I'll tell you why not to jump in. There's various reasons. But most brothers I look at now, honestly, recently my own brother, yeah, I think he's 23, 24. My mom said, oh, I'm looking for someone for him to get married.
He's not married.
He's not married.
He's married, okay.
You know, he's definitely ready to be married. Like, apart from maybe the one biological aspect, everything else in his life is just not ready. So, and I love him to bits, you know.
Of course.
But I said to Mom, Mom, please don't. She's like, why? I said, Mom, like that poor girl. Like, I said, that poor girl.
Not an endorsement, huh?
You know, honestly. And this is the thing, like, I say you have to be ready.
What's your brother's name?
Yusuf.
Huh?
Yusuf, yeah.
Yusuf, I hope you listen to your brother there, right?
You know, I said to men should 100% be ready.
Yeah.
That is the bottom line.
Right.
And as far as should you do it, there's only one caveat that I say.
Yeah.
Look, if you've got one wife and she's fulfilling all your needs and you're at peace, you're getting the mawadda, you're getting the rahmah, there's no difficulties, you need to look at something logistically. This is something that will potentially change the face of your family. Even if you got little kids, like how much time you're spending with your children will change. Right? You know, like for me,
it's a whole lifestyle.
It's a whole lifestyle. Like, you know, these kind of things are very important to consider. And a lot of guys don't consider this because they're thinking with the wrong brain.
Yeah,
you know, they're thinking with something else where they should be thinking with their brain. So take this logical thing. So if your wife she's good, she's wholesome, she's doing everything that she needs, she's the blessing that you're looking for, think about it twice before putting that in danger. Very much think about that. You have to ask yourself the question, are you the sort of guy that you're going to be able to do this? It's going to come out in public and you know that your first family is secure.
Yeah.
That wife isn't going nowhere. If there's even a little bit of doubt, really think carefully. Really think carefully. Really think carefully.
I mean, I did make a point subtly in the book as well as when I do my talks that, you know, I said the second worst thing is to compromise the stability of your first family. Because, as you said, if you know there's a chance that this could destroy that whole setup, right? Then you could probably end up with nothing because you would really not be happy, I think, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, of course, the worst thing you can do is to go into adulterous and, sexually deviant path, right? Yeah. And then you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the worlds, right? And we know, and we discussed it in fact with Imran the other day, that, you know, adultery is one of the most major sins in Islam, right? Because it really destroys society. If you really understand it properly, it really destroys society. Well, thank you, Sheikh Imran. Barakallahu fi, Jazakallah for coming. May Allah reward you. It was a very insightful discussion. I really learned a lot today from you, especially from the statistical and the biological aspects. And while I was writing this book, I didn't do that kind of extensive statistical research as such. I did a little bit. I did most of it based on my experiences and what I've observed and all that.
But that's what makes the book beautiful.
But I'm happy to see that it kind of like corroborated with what I said.
Nice. Anyone can Google statistics and facts and numbers. This is a gem.
Yeah.
This is something direct from your experience, which you can't Google.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, my dear viewers, I hope that you enjoyed this insightful discussion. Perhaps some controversial to some of you, perhaps curious to some of you, perhaps interesting to some of you. And we look forward to your comments, and whether you agree or disagree, that's not a problem. But we hope that you enjoyed it more than anything else, and we look forward to hosting you in future podcasts with Sheikh Imran and other people as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.